Hello there, come on in. We've got a great show today on United States Army Ranger shoulder sleeve insignia, or the unit patches that different Ranger units have been wearing since World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and today. So let's go take a look. Hey, good to have you with us today. We've got a great show on United States Army Ranger unit shoulder sleeve insignia. We'll start by taking a look at the Ranger battalions in World War II and how they got on to transpire to Ranger companies that were assigned to each major unit in the Korean War. And then we'll take a look at what happened to the long-range reconnaissance patrols when they were converted to Ranger units of the 75th Ranger Regiment. And then we'll finish up by taking a look at the Ranger Regiment today with its 3 key battalions, where they are, and their 2 support battalions. So I think you'll enjoy it. I'm Frank Foster, your host, and special thanks to Medals of America for all the support today, and to Peter Morgan for his great patch book, Military Patches of the United States, from where all these Ranger Regiment and Ranger Battalion and Ranger Company patches came. And by the way, if you enjoy these videos, please give us a like, and even better, subscribe. It really, really helps. Okay, let's go take a look at the Ranger Regiment. Before we get started, I need to point out that many people confuse the 75th Ranger Regiment or previous Ranger units going back to World War II with the U.S. Army Ranger Course. And there's a big difference. The Ranger units are special operations units with the mission to conduct special operations. The U.S. Army Ranger Course, or qualification tab, the course, which is located at Fort Benning, Georgia, is the Army's premier leadership school, and it falls under training and doctrine command. It's open to all members of the military, regardless of whether they have served in the 75th Ranger Regiment. Not all the members of a Ranger unit are required to go through the Ranger qualification course, but they must undergo strenuous Ranger unit training. However, all senior members of the Ranger units are required to go through the Ranger qualification course and earn the Ranger tab. At this awards ceremony, you can see 2 Rangers on the right. One has the Ranger scroll on his left sleeve, and the other has the Ranger scroll and the Ranger qualification tab. Okay, let's get to the Rangers of World War II, and I think everyone recognizes the gold and blue Ranger diamond from many movies. There were 5 Ranger battalions deployed to the European theater that included the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th Ranger Battalion. The 5th Ranger Battalion landed on Dog White sector of Omaha Beach during the invasion of Normandy, and it was the 2nd Ranger Battalion that made the famous scaling of the 90-foot cliffs a few miles to the west. The 6th Ranger Battalion was organized in the Pacific Theater, and it led the invasion of the Philippines and executed a daring raid on a Japanese POW camp to liberate American prisoners. The 6th Battalion continued fighting in the Philippines until they were deactivated in 1945 in Japan. The 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th Ranger Battalions were ghost formations, and they were part of a deception plan known as Operation Quicksilver before the invasion of Normandy. The 29th Ranger Battalion was a temporary unit made up of select volunteers from the 29th Infantry Division, and it was in existence from December 1942 to 1943. There may have been an 18th Infantry Regiment Ranger unit, as shown by this tab, but it's hard to find anything definitive on that. Between World War II and Korea, there may have been as many as 15 Ranger battalions designated in one form or another, as shown by these diamonds. It was also the time in which the Ranger battalions began using what's called the scroll, as seen here, and these are the World War II Ranger Battalion scrolls. These are the Ranger Battalion scrolls that World War II veterans would have worn on their right sleeve. At the outbreak of the Korean War, unique Ranger units were formed. The first one was in the 8th Army, and it became a Ranger Raider unit. So instead of being organized into self-contained battalions, the the Ranger units of the Korean War and later in the Vietnam era. They were organized into companies and attached to larger units to serve as an organic special operations unit. A total of 16 Ranger companies were formed during the Korean War. There were 15 numbered Ranger companies and, of course, the 8th Army Ranger Company. For example, the 1st Ranger Company was assigned to the 2nd Infantry Division, and the 2nd Ranger Company was assigned to the 7th Infantry Division. It's interesting to note that the 2nd Ranger Company was the only all-black Ranger unit in United States history. The 4th Ranger Company, for example, was with the 1st Cav Division and later with the 187th Regimental Combat Team and also supported the 1st Marine Division. These Ranger companies were not only in Korea but also in Europe and in the continental United States. Here's an interesting variation of the Korean Ranger combat patches, or at least I think they are. It's a variation of the Airborne Ranger scrolls that I have not seen before. In 1969, as part of the U.S. Army Combat Arms Regimental System, all U.S. Army Long Range Reconnaissance Patrols, LRP units, were reorganized as the 75th Infantry Regiment, Ranger. There were 15 Ranger companies formed from reconnaissance units in Europe and Vietnam. These companies were designated C through I and K through P. There was no J Ranger company. Companies A and B were kept stateside as a strategic reserve in case they were needed overseas in Europe, while Company C was with the 1st Field Force, Company D the 2nd Field Force, E Company with the 9th Infantry Division, F Company with the 25th Infantry, G Company with the 23rd Infantry, and H Company with the 1st Cav Division. And I think I Company was with the 1st Infantry Division, K was with the 4th Infantry, L Company was with the 101st Airborne, M Company was 199th Infantry Brigade, N Company was with the 173rd Airborne Brigade, and the O Company, or the Arctic Rangers, was with the 3rd Brigade, 82nd Airborne Division. Here are some interesting variations of Ranger patches. Starting in the upper left, you can see the B Company Airborne Rangers of the 75th Infantry. They've got the unit crest going back to Merrill Marauders there. Over on the far right, when I talked about Company O, the Arctic Rangers that were originally from Alaska, and then there's the N Company example, and then there's a unique patch when they called it Ranger Airborne of the 1st Battalion, 75th Infantry, and another Airborne Ranger patch that some variations that you don't see too often. A couple of other interesting variations is this 1st Battalion Ranger Airborne of the 75th Infantry and the 2nd Battalion Ranger Airborne, as well as the Desert Rangers. I'm not sure when these were used. I just thought you'd find them interesting. The 75th Ranger Regiment, as we know it today, was established in October 1984, and since then has fought in every major conflict since October 2001. I've jumped into Grenada, and I remember having a beer up at the War College with the battalion commander who was the first man out of the airplane. And I said to him, "Hey, that was pretty studly." And he laughed and said, No, Frank," he said, I didn't mean to be the first man out of the airplane, but the anti-aircraft fire waved off the lead planes, and suddenly there I was. I had to build. The Rangers also led the way with a combat jump into Panama in 1989. Today, the headquarters of the 75th Ranger Regiment, as shown by their scroll at the top of the screen, is located in Fort Benning, Georgia, along with the Regimental Military Intelligence Battalion and the Regimental Special Troops Battalion. The 1st Ranger Battalion is located in Hunter Army Airfield in Georgia and is composed of a headquarters company, 4 rifle companies, and a support company. The 2nd Ranger Battalion is located in the Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington, and it has a headquarters company, 4 rifle companies, and a support company, while the 3rd Ranger Battalion is located at Fort Benning, Georgia, and it also has a headquarters company, 4 rifle companies, and a support company. The Ranger Regiment was one of the first American units to go into Afghanistan in response to the September 11th attack. and they have been rotating the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Rifle Battalions in Afghanistan for more than 18 years, and it has remained committed to the fight in Afghanistan. The Rangers also took part in the 2003 invasion of Iraq and were there for almost 7 years of fighting, and also deployed to Syria to fight against the ISIS, or the radical Islamic groups. Nearly 1/3 of a Ranger regiment is deployed 365 days a year. And that yearly commitment makes the 75th Ranger Regiment the only unit in the United States Army to be continuously deployed since the beginning of a global war on terror. Here's a good example of the 2nd Ranger Battalion scroll on the sleeve of this young sergeant, and you can see that he also has the Ranger qualification tab above his Ranger scroll. Here's a good example of the 75th Ranger Regiment scroll on the battle dress uniform in a subdued format, and you can see the Ranger qualification tab above it. The Ranger scroll as a combat identification badge as worn on the blue uniform is shown here. Here's some great examples of what we would call morale patches for the 1st Battalion of the 75th Ranger Regiment. You can see the A Company variation on the right, the headquarters and headquarters company variation, and on the left you can see the B Company variation. The 2nd Battalion of the 75th Ranger Regiment also has its own variation of morale patches, and these are pretty cool. You can see the, starting from the left, headquarters company, A Company, B Company, and C Company of the 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. Not to be outdone, the 3rd Battalion of the 75th Ranger Regiment has its own unique morale patches. I think you'll agree, they're pretty cool. Some other unique Ranger morale tabs are shown here, one in the upper left-hand corner from the Vietnam era. Then the one on the right upper corner is the 6th Ranger Battalion, and then the skull and crossbones is the 7th Ranger Battalion, and the unique sort of French variation with poison ivy on it is the 14th Ranger Battalion. This 1942 Life magazine is really cool. Got a lot of girls in it too. Thank you for joining us today on our 75 years of history of the Ranger units and their insignia, from the battalions of World War II through the companies in Korea to, well, the Ranger Regiment today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please give us a like. Even better, subscribe. It really, really helps. And we look forward to having you with us next time on Veterans Medals Workshop. See you then.